On this episode of Unstoppable, we'll give you score updates for men and women's basketball, men and women's squash, and women's tennis, as well as check in on how the men and women's cross-country teams and the women's gymnastics team have fared recently.
We also have GW Athletic Director Patrick Nero joining us to discuss his goals for Colonial Sports. All that right here on Unstoppable.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for tuning in to the first installment of the revitalized show GW TV Unstoppable, your destination for all things GW sports. I'm your anchor, Sean Grant, and sitting next to me is your co-anchor, Casey Decker. Let's get down to it, Casey.
All right, Sean. Well, we'll start off with women's gymnastics, who have been having an unbelievable year. As of right now, they are undefeated, starting off the season with a perfect 9-0 record. Their victories have earned them a spot in the national rankings, number 17. Some of their victims so far include North Carolina, Rutgers, Penn, New Hampshire, and Temple. Next up, they'll face off against three other ranked teams, including number 1 Oklahoma, at the Perfect 10 Challenge in Oklahoma City.
Next, we'll take a look at our men's squash team, who have had a strong season thus far and currently sit at 11-5 overall. After starting off the season with 5 straight wins, they went on to drop the next 3, but since then they have never lost more than 1 game in a row. Their best win came when they beat 12th-ranked Cornell 5-4 back on January 31st. That win helped the boys climb into the number 10 spot in the national rankings. We look for them to continue to win in future matches.
GW women's squash has also been having a fairly impressive season. They're currently ranked 13th in the nation and are coming off with a big win against 10th-ranked Drexel. The women started off the season strong with 4 consecutive wins, but struggled mid-season against a string of top-ranked schools and fell to 500. Since then, the team has gone 4-2. They have only 2 more matches before heading into the postseason, both against ranked teams. That means 4 GW seniors will soon be playing their final home matches, including Anna Gabriela Porras. Porras was the first College Squash Association All-American in GW history on either the men's or women's teams. She also holds the program record for most career victories with 51.
Over to men's track now, where the team has fared well to the indoor season thus far. To open the season, they placed 3rd out of 5 teams at the CNU Holiday Invite and were led in that meet by senior Ryan Tucker, who won the 3,000-meter run with a time of 8 minutes and 38 seconds. Tucker has continued to lead the men's team throughout the indoor season, as he set a personal record in the mile run in their second meet with a time of 4 minutes and 20 seconds, and finished 3rd out of 21 competitors, and broke his own personal record in the 3,000-meter run during the team's last meet on February 5th with a time of 8 minutes and 24 seconds. The team will look for continued success from Tucker as they head into the A10 Championships on February 20th. Well, we're going to go to a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
Wonderful academic institution with a fine athletic tradition.
Patricio Garino throws it down with 2 hands.
Wonderful city. It's a great place to go to school.
Keith and Savage open down the right side. Will go and Duncan with his right hand.
Not just the family, it's the whole community.
Armwood Duncan with 1.9 seconds left. Armwood, a thunder slam. 81-80 George Washington. A huge victory for the Colonials.
Nearly 16 million people visit Washington, D.C. every year. Some come to witness, some to be heard. We come to make an impact, to learn from leaders, and to lead others. To create and create change. We are the George Washington University. We come to make history.
Welcome back to Unstoppable. Let's continue our rundown of current Colonial sports with women's track. The team has started the indoor season off with less than ideal results, consistently placing near the bottom in team meets. However, on an individual level, many of the women are seeing great success. Several runners have bested personal records, and freshman Taryn Milbourne recently broke her own record for fastest 200-meter dash time in school history. At the Armory Invite in early February, she completed the race in just 27.34 seconds. The team will now gear up for the Atlantic 10 Indoor Championships in Rhode Island.
And to wrap up our score updates, women's tennis has started off this season with 2 straight wins. In their first match against regional rival Howard University, the team swept all 7 matches to start off the season with a bang. The team then went on to beat UMBC 4-3 back on February 5th to continue their winning ways. It will be exciting to see how they continue to perform as the season progresses.
Of course, we've left out at least one key sport of our roundup today, basketball. Our correspondent Mike Falco has that for you now. Mike?
Thanks, Casey. Last year ended in heartbreak for both the men's and women's basketball teams. After a late season collapse, the men's team fell short of making the NCAA tournament bracket. And the women suffered an upset loss to Gonzaga in the first round of tournament play. As the regular season begins to wind down, both teams hope to find more postseason success this year. The men's team started the 2015-2016 season off strong, surging to a 10-1 record in non-conference play. Behind the strong post play of senior Kevin Larson and junior transfer Tyler Kavanaugh, and the shooting of senior Patricio Garino, the team dominated opponents on both sides of the court. The team's early season was highlighted by an upset victory of number 6 UVA at the Smith Center. Garino and Kavanaugh each dropped 18 points, aided by the thousands of screaming fans that packed the Smith Center. The team rode a late-game surge to a 73-68 victory. The team peaked in Week 7, when, following its strong first-half play, it was ranked number 20 in the country. However, an embarrassing loss to DePaul knocked the team out of the rankings again the next week. Since the start of the new year, the team has been hot and cold. 3 close midseason losses to St. Louis, Dayton, and Richmond have left the GW men with a lot of work to do to secure a spot in the NCAA tournament. Throughout the second half of the season, streaky shooting and a lack of physicality on the boards has characterized the team. These problems were on display in a crushing loss against St. Joseph's on February 10th. In a must-win game, the team was simply outmatched. St. Joseph's physically dominated the GW men, who were unable to penetrate the lane and drive to the hoop. Poor play in the post and off the bench, which were both so strong at the beginning of the year, left the team floundering. A second-half rally brought the team within 4 points with only 10 minutes remaining, only to collapse again. The 18-point loss will sting for both the team and its fans. While there's a lot of work to be done and there is still plenty of room for hope, at 18-6, the team is one of the first 4 out of the NCAA tournament, according to ESPN bracketologist Joe Lunardi. But if the team can get back to the strong physical play that brought them so much success in their non-conference schedule, they still have a shot at the postseason. When everything is clicking, this GW team is a force to be reckoned with. Behind leading scorer Tyler Kavanaugh, the team boasts a strong starting 5 with good bench support. When they hit their shots and get physical on the boards, the Colonials have proven they can beat teams like UVA and VCU. With a strong end of the season and a deep run in the conference tournament, the GW men could easily find themselves in their second NCAA tournament in 3 years. The GW women, on the other hand, have had a very different season. Unlike the men who started out strong only to stumble as the season wore on, the women got off to a rocky start. The women's team suffered 3 tough losses against Stanford, Wright State, and Florida Gulf Coast in their first 10 games of the year. Behind Jonquel Jones, a potential All-American and top 5 WNBA draft pick, who leads the team in both scoring and rebounding, averaging nearly 17 points and 15 rebounds a game, the team rattled off 14 straight midseason victories. After a close loss to Fordham on February 3rd and a win against Richmond on the 7th, the team is 20-4 and in second place in the A10. Barring any sort of major collapse, the team finds itself in good position for a second chance at the NCAA tournament. With only 3 home games left in the season, students should make it a priority to get to the Smith Center and see the talent on display at a GW women's basketball game. With less than a month left to play in the regular season, both the men's and women's basketball teams find themselves knocking on the door of a playoff run. If the men's team can get physical in the lane and shoot more consistently, the NCAA tournament is within their reach. And if the women can continue to stay hot behind the play of Jonquel Jones, a deep run into the tournament bracket is not out of the question. With only a few games left for both teams, students should get to the Smith Center and enjoy the season while it lasts. I wish both teams the best of luck. That's all for basketball. Sean and Casey, back to you.
Thanks so much, Mike. Now, having wrapped up our score recap, we're going to go to a short commercial break. But don't go anywhere, because when we return, we will feature an exclusive interview with GW Athletic Director Patrick Nero, conducted by our own Casey Decker.
Buzz started for me out on the line outside of the Barclays Center. You know, a lot of GW alumni filtering in.
I'm just so proud to be an alumni and be a part of this movement.
There hasn't been a team like this in 7, 8, 9 years.
I'd say we probably have over 1,000 people here, and you can feel the energy.
I graduated in 1991.
I graduated in 2009.
I graduated in 2005 from the Elliott School.
The School of Medicine and Health Sciences.
From the Columbian College.
If you want a place to be in the world tonight, it's right here with all of our alumni, students, parents, friends of the George Washington University.
It's just important to have a community that supports our student athletes.
I love this team, and I'm proud to support it.
Everyone that's participated and made this happen knows it didn't happen overnight.
What we're trying to do is develop students and student athletes to really impact the world.
This is an even better turnout than last year.
The first thing it can really do for us is get our name out there.
Applications the next year go through the roof.
Tonight, you are the George Washington University.
It raises the school spirit and makes us all proud to be Colonials.
And you have really galvanized our whole university community.
You're building a spirit and you're building a family within the university stronger than we've ever had before.
Gentlemen, go out there and raise high.
Crank it up.
Raise high!
Raise high!
Win, baby.
Crank it up.
Raise high, the buff and blue.
Welcome back to Unstoppable. Joining us now, we have Patrick Nero, the athletic director here at GW. Mr. Nero, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome, Casey. It's great to be here.
Thanks. So I want to begin by asking you, what were your goals for GW Sports coming into this year?
Sure. For this year, I mean, this is our, for me, it's my 5th year here at GW, and we've really been building the program since 2011. And so for this year, it really was to get all of our teams to take that next step. To be at the top of whether it's the Atlantic 10 or whatever conference they're playing in. So competitively, our competitive goals were really to compete for championships.
Were there any specific teams you were focusing on building this year, more so than in previous years?
Well, I think, when you're an athletic director, for us at GW, we have 27 teams. And so we talk a lot about the fact that each team is in a different stage. And so you're building each team to see if that next year they can take it to a next level. So we started off in the fall with our 2 soccer programs. Women's soccer each year, the last 3 years, had gotten better. And this year they went 9-0 in conference, won the Atlantic 10 championship. So an undefeated season. I think that was the first time in history for us that we had won an undefeated Atlantic 10 regular season championship. And then our men's soccer team, I think, maybe fueled a little bit by how well our women's team was doing. They ended up winning the championship, regular season championship as well.
Perfect.
So each team, I think, we take a look at and say, where are they in their progress as a program? Where can they go next?
So can you explain to me what a 5-year plan is? Because I see a lot of that.
Sure. I think specific to GW, what we did my first, I think, 9 months here, we really studied where we were as an athletic department. We took a good look at the student experience, their academic progress, their academic success, and then we took a look at our competitive success. Could we be competitive in the conferences that we were competing? And so we laid forth a 5-year plan with our board of trustees here at GW to look at each of those categories and plot out the ability to have success in each of those areas. And last week we had a chance to go back to the board of trustees because we're 3 years into the plan from when it was announced, and we're able to give a good progress report. And we've seen the success that we had hoped for. In some instances, I think we've surpassed where we thought we would be competitively and academically, and then in other areas really taking a look to see what we have to continue to do in some of our teams to make sure they can be more competitive in the future.
So what are some steps you'd be taking to make some of our teams more competitive?
Well, I think, for us it's been, you look at a lot of different things. So the first thing that we had to look at from a competitive standpoint was the ability to recruit a high-level student athlete, one that was academically prepared to come to GW, but also competitive and athletic enough to compete at a high-level Division I school. And so we looked at things such as scholarships. We looked at our facilities. We looked at our coaching staffs. We looked at our scheduling and put all of that together. And each team, where are we at this particular time, and then put the resources in so that each team could attract a higher level student athlete.
So you mentioned that our soccer teams have been doing very well. What are some of your other personal highlights of the season so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very cyclical. So we started the fall, and volleyball had another very good season. You know, incredibly competitive with Oregon at the time, who I think was 15th in the country or top 15, and ended up losing a 5-set match. But you know, to know that we could compete in volleyball at that level was exciting. And then we went right into the winter sports and had some great early wins from our men's and women's basketball programs. Obviously, a highlight for me would be a full Smith Center to beat UVA early in November. That was incredible. And then I think it was about a week later on the same day that our men's basketball team beat Tennessee on a neutral court, our women's basketball team beat Iowa. It was a top 20 program. So, you know, for me, it's just that continuing, and we now are into more of our winter sports. Both of our squash teams are ranked in the top 15 in the country. Our gymnastics team is ranked about 15 in the country. They're undefeated at 9-0, and both basketball teams are making a run for the postseason. So I try to follow all of our 27 teams. It can be exhausting at times. We have close to 500 student athletes just on the varsity side, another 1,000 on the club side. So it's the athletic highlights are great. Probably the other big highlight for me would be we won a competition amongst Division 1, 2, and 3 schools, which is 1,200 schools in the area of community service. And GW was finished first in the country in community service in this fall. And that was very big for me and for our program because it's part of who we are as a university. So many students choose to come to GW because of that leadership component and that service component. And so to know that we're doing what we need to do in the athletic department to allow our student athletes to also have that experience is really important.
So what are some of the things you're most looking forward to in the remainder of the season?
Well, I mean, I would say we're midpoint now when you look at our fall sports and our winter sports, and we're coming towards the end of the winter sports. So over the next month, it's really watching to see where we can go with our squash programs are getting ready for national championships in 2 weeks. Men's and women's basketball are really making a run to get to the NCAA tournament. I would love to sit here on Selection Sunday and Monday with both teams going to the NCAA tournament. That would certainly mean we met the goals of those programs. And then 2 weeks later, our gymnastics program will go to their Eagle Championship, which is a chance for them to, for the first time ever, win back-to-back championships. So I think that's the next month. It'll be a lot going on, and then we'll get into the spring sports. And you know, we're really looking for great results from our baseball program, which has been building over the last few years. Greg Ritchie and what used to be a young team is now becoming a veteran team, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do, especially come A10 time. I know it's their goal to be competitive at the top of the A10. Our men's and women's tennis programs hopefully will both compete for an A10 championship again this year. So the spring sports will be right around the corner soon too.
So certainly a lot to be excited about for Kelowna sports.
Yeah, it's like if you follow GW athletics, you know we've become a year-round program.
Yeah.
So it's good for our fans. It's a little bit tough on our staff because there's not a lot of downtime.
So you've worked in athletic departments at a bunch of other schools. Yep. Has GW's lack of physical space presented any unique challenges? Because I know, for example, baseball has to play in Virginia for things like that.
When I first got here, it certainly did, because we just did not have the facilities that could attract and allow our coaches to recruit a high-level student athlete. So it was very difficult if you were recruiting a student that had very high academic success and wanted to be a high-level athlete. It was difficult for us to attract them. They were going to places like a Notre Dame, a Duke, a Stanford, a Northwestern, other high-level academic schools that wanted to be competitively Division I athletes. And we didn't have the facilities to do that. But over the last 4 years, we've turned that around completely. So brand new baseball stadium, brand new Smith Center. I mean, it's incredible what we've been able to do inside the Smith Center. Softball field's been redone, soccer and lacrosse fields have been redone. So just about every one of our venues has been upgraded and updated. For us, it's not about size. It's not really, we don't need large venues. We need venues that elite athletes can train in. And right now we have venues elite athletes can train in.
So I know in some sports, especially basketball right now, there's a pretty distinct home court advantage. We do very well at home.
Correct.
Would you attribute that to some of the renovations that have been done, or something
else? I think that's a combination of everything. When you're trying to build a championship program in any sport, one of the first things you have to do is you have to become a dominant program at home. And so There's just a lot of that comfort of being at home. Surely fan support has a lot to do with that, but part of it's mindset, part of it's preparation, your eating habits, your rest habits, just your daily habits that are easier on the at home. And then to take that next level as a team, then you have to have a little bit more of a swagger to win on the road as well. And I see some of our programs starting to do that, which is really exciting.
Yeah. In terms of home games especially, and you mentioned the fan support being key, what's your assessment of student attendance at all GW sports right now?
Sure. I mean, I think for college sports and sports altogether, we really have to take a look at when our games are being played, what people are interested in, you know, especially this next generation of young people and kind of how they experience sports. So what we see, I think we're pretty honest and open to the fact that at the collegiate level, at GW especially, because we don't have football, basketball is going to be our highest attended spectated sport. We've done well in gymnastics, we've done well in volleyball, but basketball tends to be the most consistent. And so for us, especially on the men's side, we see particular trends. We don't get to, in any sport, you don't get to set your schedule. So if we were able to set our schedule, we would probably play a lot of Friday night games or Saturday at 4 o'clock games. So when we're a home team on non-conference, we can set the time, we can set the date, and we tend to do that. When we get into the conference season, so much of that is dictated by television. So if you notice, one of the positives that's really helped our program is we've been able to get over 5 years ago, 4 years ago, we were lucky to have 3 or 4 games televised a year for our men's basketball program. Wow. The last 2 years, we've been over 20.
Yeah, there's broadcasts on every single game.
So it's great. It helps recruiting. It helps a school like GW that has alumni and students all over the world. That really helps us. But what it also means is those television stations get to dictate when that game is being played. So we struggle if we're playing Wednesday night at 7. That's a difficult time for us to draw students because they're in class. 2 weeks ago, we played Thursday at 9 o'clock. We had a great student attendance. 3 weeks ago, we played Friday at 3 o'clock in the middle of a blizzard, and we had great student attendance. Really? So school nights, Monday through Thursday at 7 o'clock can be difficult. Weekends, we draw very well. But we have to play weeknight games, and so that means our staff has to work harder to get the place filled.
Are there any plans to add more programs, any more sports programs in the future?
You know, I mean, I think what for a school our size, we have a significant amount of programs. And we have 27 varsity teams. We have 30 club teams. That is, if you come to GW and you want to play a sport or compete in a sport, you have that opportunity. And I think that's the most important thing for me as an athletic director. And so while some of those are club sports and some of those are varsity sports, there is a process to which sports will be club and which ones will be varsity. There's a lot that goes into thinking about that, especially competitively, funding-wise. But I think 57 sports is a lot, 57 teams. 1,500 students at GW compete for GW in sports. 98% of them are undergraduate. So if you think about it, it's probably 1,450 out of just under 10,000 undergraduate students compete in an intercollegiate sport, either in the club level or the varsity level. And then another 3,000 or so in intramurals. So I think, you know, when I first came to GW, and at times people say, well, we're not a school, an athletic school. But when you have that many students competing in competition, whether it's intercollegiate or whether it's intramural, I think we're a very active campus and a very sports-minded campus.
All right, terrific. So we're going to go to break now.
Great.
Pastor Nero, thank you so much for joining us. When we come back, a preview of some of GW's upcoming sporting events. Stay tuned.
It's on us
to stand up to those who tell us it's not our business.
To tell our friends if what they're doing is wrong.
It's on us
to do something, anything, to keep an assault from happening.
To be more than a bystander.
To create an environment where women feel and are safe.
It's on us
to change the way we talk about women.
To be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
It's on us.
To say something when our friends are being stupid.
To hold our friends accountable for their actions.
It's on us.
To look out for someone who's had too much to drink.
To step in if a friend is doing something that could lead to sexual assault.
It's on us.
To not give our friends a pass.
To never blame the victim.
to stop a sexual assault any way we can.
I am a member of the George Washington University community, and it's on us to end sexual violence.
Welcome back to Unstoppable. To wrap up the show today, we're going to send it over to Andy Weber, who's going to tell you what games to look forward to in the coming weeks. Andy?
Thanks, Sean. Here are the upcoming home games that all Colonials need to see. On February 19th, gymnastics will host its annual Pink Meet, where they will compete against North Carolina and William & Mary. Then, on the 20th, women's basketball will face VCU, followed on the 21st by the men who take on last-ranked A-10 rival LaSalle University. Finally, on the 23rd, baseball opens their home season against Delaware State. Sean, Casey, back to you.
Well, that's all we have for you today. Thanks for tuning in.
And make sure you come right back here next time for more of Unstoppable on GWTV.